Albert Einstein famously said that if the bee disappeared off the surface of the globe, man would only have 4 years left to live. The gradual decline of the honeybee and the effect on pollination could make your daily shop a thing of the past. It is estimated that bees are responsible for 1 in 3 mouthfuls of food found in supermarkets like this. Researchers have discovered that pollination levels of some plants have dropped by 50% in the last 20 years. However, there may be a solution that's closer to home. Urban beekeeping is on the rise in the UK, and I went out to learn more about it. Beekeeping in an urban environment is both possible and accessible, as demonstrated when I visited a London beekeeper. This beehive is situated on the balcony of a 3rd-floor flat in North London and belongs to Angela Woods, the Secretary of the London Beekeepers Association. As Woods gets ready to tend to her hive, she believes that the dangers facing plant pollination can be reduced by an increase in the numbers of people who keep bees in built-up areas.
We rely so heavily on pollination as a food supply, and our food security depends to a great deal on pollinating insects. People don't realise the hard work that bees do. They're not just there to produce honey for us, but the byproduct of that is that they happen to pollinate all our crops in the process of producing honey for themselves. So we need to take care of them and not take them for granted. My bees are in an urban environment, but what we've got to remember is that all bees, pollinators, and that includes hoverflies, moths, butterflies and bumblebees, they're all under threat, or they have particular challenges, and it's very difficult to plan for that and to do the best thing for bees because it's such a complex variety of pressures that they're under.
Woods has been keeping bees for over 7 years and stresses the importance of thorough training and an understanding the positive effect that beekeeping has on the environment.
We've got particular challenges in an urban environment because obviously we've got lots of people crammed in closely together, so you've got to be really mindful of your neighbours. Bees will have the urge to swarm through several months of every year. So you've got to be competent, because if you lose track of your bees or they swarm, you don't want to be picking up your bees off the back of a bicycle wheel in central London, which I've done. The idea that beekeeping is easy and that you just stick a hive at the bottom of the garden and that you'll magically get honey, I wish it was that easy, but it isn't. It's a fantastic hobby, but even after 7 years of beekeeping, I'm still learning. I think that the profile of the modern beekeeper, the urban beekeeper, is not just learning the techniques of keeping bees, but to have a stake in the environment in which they live.
Dr. Barbara Smith is a senior scientist at the Game and Wildlife Conservation Trust, who has conducted global research on honeybee survival. She reaffirms that urban beekeeping is an excellent way to preserve the honeybee, therefore increasing plant pollination.
Urban beekeeping is fantastic. I mean, urban beekeepers have a great advantage in that there are far more flowers in an urban area than there will be in the countryside. So they have a much better chance of getting a good crop of honey and keeping their colonies healthy. Well, we know that the value of pollination is several £billion a year. So in terms of, what that means is if somebody had to go out and do all the pollinating that the bees do, you've got billions of pounds of labour in there. It's difficult for people to see, I think, the link between their food and bees, but everything, all fruits, many vegetables, they're dependent on bees for pollination, and without them we just don't have crops.
This is Matthew Evans reporting in North London.